welcome to the Interlude with Drew.
What's going on, everybody? This is Andrew McCain. Welcome back to another episode of the Interlude with Drew. Today, I got my bro on the line. We're about to do an interview with my bro, Beau Talley. How's it going, bro?
Man, cannot complain, man. It's good to see you, Doc. It's really good to see you, man.
Yes, sir, man. It's been a while, bro. I see you still repping. I still call them the Skins, man. That's my team too. They're
gonna always be the Skins, man, forever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't get with the Commanders quite yet. How you feel about it,
man? To me, man, it sounds like some type of like video game to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I definitely can't get with it, but I mean, it is what it is, man. If they start winning, then hey, we'll be good.
We'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
right? Like, so. I mean, right now, I'll take it over the football team.
Hey, you know what's funny? I like the football team.
Yeah,
I
got used to it. I'll say that I got used to it.
I thought it was classy in a sense, man. Like I like the gear. The gear was dope. And the
gear was
dope too. Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't know, man.
What did you have like a choice that you wanted? Like I wanted Red Wings. Did you have like a name that you were looking?
Red Wings.
I mean, not Red Wolves. Red Wolves.
That's what I had. Yeah. Red Wolves, man. Could you imagine Red Wolves, man?
Right. And they had the gear. People had already started making the gear and stuff. That's why I was sold. But,
yeah, the gear was crazy. You know what I'm saying? The logos were crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really wanted Red Wolves because like if your franchise start winning, and just imagine how crazy that stadium gets.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Once we'll get used to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, win or lose, and they do a lot of losing, so it'd be what it is. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, either way. But yeah, so just to give y'all an introduction, I met Beau back in maybe 2012 or so when I was still living in Maryland. We used to, me and my siblings, we used to lead worship at this youth service called the Remix at Reed Temple North, and he used to play guitar. So we were seeing him like every week, every Saturday. I must say, that experience, being able to go, lead worship at that church, they would bring in musicians. They were all like beast musicians. Beau was one of them. That really pushed me in my musical journey because I felt like I had been stagnant for a long time. But like hearing them, I was like, oh yeah, I got to step my game up. So that's where I met Beau at, and he actually. He played a song on guitar. He's a guitar player. He played a song on our album Language of Liberation. He played on the song God of Peace. And man, to this day, I still love that mainly because of the guitar. So this is my guy right here, man. So
you gotta send me that, man, because I totally forgot until you just said it.
Oh yeah,
I totally forgot about that. And I remember having a lot of fun laying guitar on that song, man.
Bro, you killed it so bad, bro. I love it. I love it.
That's
like
crazy.
I like the song, but like I mainly like it because, and then Ross on bass.
Oh
so,
man,
yeah, that combination. Whoo, I love it.
Listen,
man. So today we're just having a conversation, man, talking about what you have going on and everything. So I just want to start from your origin. So you're originally from the DMV area, like I said, PG County, where I grew up. I wasn't born there, but I was there since I was from like 5 to 23. So that's
okay
home for me. So talk about what it was like growing up in the area. It's not like everywhere else. Trust me, I know now. It's definitely like everywhere else. But talk about what it's like growing up in the PG County area.
Man, like I know, PG County was like one of the like interesting places in the world.
Oh yeah.
But for me, like I loved it. I still love PG County, man. It's home. The DMV is home.
Yes, sir.
But like PG County for us, like we grew up in Temple Hills, and we grew up right next to Iverson Mall, which was not the most pleasant area,
or
whatever. But we really didn't know like how bad it was. It was just like a normal like neighborhood to us growing up.
Exactly.
And we had a good time, man, growing up in PG County. I loved it. It was an experience. I grew a ton growing up in Temple Hills and in PG County. So I mean, all the different people, man, all the different personalities there. Or whatever, but like you said, it's no place like PG County ever in the world.
Yep.
None. Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like, in a way, PG County's kind of divided. Like everybody's cool with each other, but there's like a North PG and then the South. So you're from like more of the South part. I'm more of like up North. So I started off in College Park, and I was living in Atlanta for most of the time. So I'm like on the northern end of PG County.
Yeah.
It's all great, man. I miss that place for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely grew up in the hood part for sure.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is divided because that northern part is, I mean, it's nice, you know. I like Upper Marlboro and Bowie up in that area and all that good stuff. Even the outskirts of Atlanta and stuff like that. In Laurel, the Laurel part that's in PG County, dope.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how did you develop your love for music starting out, like being young and everything like that?
Hey, so you know what, Andrew? I was literally not trying to be a musician.
Oh, wow.
Man, I was trying to play basketball.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, bro. Basketball was my thing. And now look, because I'm just like your family. My family's super musically inclined.
Okay.
So everybody play. They either play, they sing, they in the industry somewhere. And I just was like, man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do what everybody else did. So basketball was my thing. And what happened was I kept getting in trouble in school all the time. So my dad pulled me off the basketball team. And so I got in big trouble this one summer. So what happened was I was punished for the whole summer. And we had nothing but guitars and stuff in the house. So I just sat in my room. I had nothing else to do. I picked the guitar up and I started playing and I fell in love with the guitar. And look, watch this. Nobody knew I could play for like 2 years in my family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just showed up at church one day with the guitar and played. And everybody's like, what? Crap. So, yeah, man. So that's how I started, man. That's how I started, just like that.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Was it like an acoustic or electric?
It was an electric. But so like with the electric, of course, you need an amp. But I was so, I guess I was like, I don't want nobody to know that I'm playing it. So, I would literally go in the closet in my bedroom and play guitar, like in the closet, and then come out and be hot and sweating in the closet. Man. So, it was an electric guitar, but I would never plug it up because I never wanted anybody to hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So basically, you were self-taught then?
Yeah.
So what do you think about, like, because there's a lot of musicians, especially in church, are self-taught. Like, what do you think are the advantages and maybe some disadvantages of being self-taught?
That's a good question. Like, I think sometimes the self-taught, as opposed to those who start learning by reading and stuff like that, those who can really read, it's pros and cons on both ends. But like the self-taught is you naturally have a feel for music. Yes. Like when you self-taught, man, you start developing that feel, and you start to mimic what you hear a lot. Your ear's different, of course. Your ear's more pronounced and all that good stuff. And so when you're learning and from when you're self-taught, I mean, you just have a feel. But then a lot of those musicians don't tap into the reading space or whatever.
Hold on, real quick. I think I lost your audio.
Okay.
You still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hold on, real quick. I don't know why. Like in the middle of you talking, I just lost.
Okay.
All right, say something again.
Something again.
All right, got you.
Got me.
All right, cool. I lost you like right in the middle of talking about like learning how to read notes and everything like that.
Yeah, because like a lot of self-taught musicians, I think they stop at they can play by ear and stuff like that, and it is what it is. But like, the con is that they can't step into those places where you're required to read, because depending on the job you're tapping into, like some jobs require you to be like, hey, can you read, or can you at least look at charts and try to do that? And so you lose that ability as well, as opposed to musicians that can read, but then they don't have they'll be like, man, they don't have that feel, and they want that feel that the musicians that learn by ear and are trained by they self-taught, they want to have that feel or whatever. So it's pros and cons on both sides.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you explained it perfectly. Like a lot of times the main difference is the feel. Like when there's a self-taught musician, they have to learn by listening. So they're hearing someone who already has developed their feel. And in my opinion, guitar, especially both electric and acoustic, feel is like absolutely important. And it's one thing to be able to play, but when you can play with feel, like that's a totally different ball game. So that's a very, very interesting, perspective. So like, what age were you when that was happening? Like when you?
I was like I was like 9 and 10 when
Okay.
that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So around that time, and basketball was my thing, man. Like it hurt, but I mean, I still play basketball. I wanted to be a pro, of course.
Yeah.
But and I still played in high school and all that good stuff. But then, you know, I always had this funny thing about how like music and sports sometimes don't mix. One is going to take over the other somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So music just kind of grabbed me, and I gracefully thank God for that too.
Oh, yeah,
you know.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when would you say that like you started to come into your own? Like you're like, okay, I could actually really do this. Like when do you start having opportunities to play different places and everything like that?
Man, you know what? When I was like 18,
mm-hmm.
I started going on the road or whatever. When I got to be about 20. And when I was 18, I was still nervous about it.
Okay.
You know, so like I kind of like flamed out on some of the shows or whatever, because I didn't know what all went into like being prepared,
right,
or whatever. So, which was a good lesson to learn. It was really, really good. But I think like when I was 20, 21 is when I was really like, this is what I got to do, you know, and because I started to kind of get into more spaces on both like church and then on the R&B scene and then even jazz, because I was this trumpet player that I was playing for, and he was traveling around, and he was just doing like regular spots, man, but he was going everywhere, and I was going with him everywhere, and I was learning so much about the road, and I just was like, all right, this is where I need to be, so I need to try to make this work the best way I can.
Wow. Okay. So talk about like how you change your approach for like, for instance, gospel as opposed to R&B as opposed to jazz. Like how do you change your approach and how you play?
That's a good question. And I think sometimes it deals with the artist that you may be playing for, or depending on the song or whatever it is. So like if it's just regular church or whatever, and depending on who you're playing with and what's being required, if it's just church or whatever, because all of the genres have the same chords.
Right.
They just place differently and they have different feels for them. So I think like sometimes you got to step back. And what I do sometimes, like if I'm like doing like a jazz gig, right, or straight ahead jazz, or even pocket jazz, as opposed to like church, I warm up differently when I'm about to practice the music. So sometimes I'll warm up in a different type of scale or chords if I'm doing church, as opposed to what I'm gonna do jazz wise. You know what I'm saying? I might pull out some different types of scales depending on the music or whatever, just to kind of get my mindset and my fingers straight for what I'm about to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes it just kind of depends, because I think sometimes people get the wrong misconception that they think like church is supposed to be busy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just be like, it's such a wrong misconception, man. And it's just like, yo, because so much have come out of the church. So many dope musicians, so many dope artists have come out of the church that have developed great music for us. And I think that sometimes when people be like, man, church is this and it's busy and such, I'm like, man, that ain't true.
Yeah,
you know? Like I developed my pocket through church, man. We was straight pocket all my life, man. So yeah. So the approach, it just kind of depends on what it is. I do, and I tell like all my students and stuff like that I teach. I'm like, man, just warm up to whatever music you're about to do.
Okay.
You know, you change the warm-ups, you know what I'm saying? And then you start approaching it that way. And if you grew up in church, because I think sometimes like, yo, if you grew up in church, all right, you naturally have that feel. As opposed to if you got R&B, then your feel has changed. Some of the chords are the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Some of the feels are the same, but this still is just certain little intricate things that you do differently in each genre. And it's just like getting the understanding of like, okay, I can't do this here and I can't do that there, you know?
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So you're figuring out how to play the guitar on your own and everything like that. Did you gravitate towards any particular guitar player starting out, or maybe a little later on that influenced you a lot?
So like, man, you know what's funny? Like, so because I was self-taught and I was kind of like traveling this road by myself, like a lot of people have different influences and stuff like that. So it's funny, my influence at that time was a sax player, was Gerald Albright.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Two totally different instruments, but I was practicing what he was doing and I was applying it to guitar.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I had to listen to a guitar player, you know what I'm saying, until later on. And then of course, like, because, you know, in church, man, I was playing a lot of church. Jonathan DeBose, who was on like all the records, every record.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, because I was just like, okay, I cannot sound just like him. But
Right.
I'm gonna take some of the stuff that he can do and I'm gonna apply it to me. And so he was a major influence because of his approach and how he would do, because like he sounded so good, his tone was dope, you know, and that was like the biggest thing that made me be like, oh, I want to be like him. His tone was impeccable.
Oh man.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have any like artists that you listened to a lot growing up?
Man, so we were quartet. Man, we listened to Canton Spirituals all the time. Okay. Man, we was straight quartet. Canton Spirituals, Mighty Clouds of Joy, Slim and the Supreme Angels. We was really like that. And of course, a ton of choir music and stuff. And then, but my dad had like a record player that was all like 70s and 80s R&B. You know what I'm saying? So it was like Temptations and stuff like that. And so we would go and listen to that. And so I never honed in on one artist. Okay. I never have. I never, just because it was like, I always think it's hard to ask musicians like, man, is it one person you listen to all the time? It's like, man, there's so many artists. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So did you guys happen to listen to like the gospel radio in the area at that time, like on the AM side? Or
yeah, we was, man, 1340 and back then 1580, having 1580. Yeah.
Okay. I just had to make sure. Yeah, they had like before, like having 600, 1340, 860, I think it was too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so did you work any jobs before like becoming a full-time musician?
Man, so like it's funny, I worked in the mall for a little bit, right? Man, look, I worked at Iverson Mall, right? And I worked at this store, it's called Dynamics, I think, or something like that. Clothing store. So I did that. But then I did like I was working in like this office job for just a short stint.
Okay.
And that was actually cool because I think I learned some organization skills from it. That was like really kind of key that I started to implement on when I started to grow more musically and what I wanted to do. Right. And, you know, I just kind of did stuff like that. And then I did a ton of like camps and summer camps and stuff like that over the years as well. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So did you, like, I know you said you had your home church. Like, when did you start to kind of branch out and play it, like, you know, like the remix and different services and churches and stuff like that?
So, you know, so I was doing like a lot of churches before I got to Reed Temple. So like when I left my dad's church when I was 20, and that was a big deal, bro. Oh my gosh, man. It was a big deal because, man, they did not want me to leave, and it was a big thing. And I knew that I needed to branch out and grow. So then, you know, I went to a couple of other churches, and it was instrumental for my growth. And then it was like, man, by the time I got to Reed Temple, was like, I started to really get in a good groove. Like, it really started to learn, because Reed Temple required you to really be on a high professional level. And I really always appreciated that church. And I was at Reed North, and, you know, I was at both of them. I was at Glendale and Reed North a lot in between. You know, I would fill in at Glendale sometimes or whatever. And then Reed North, I was at Reed North for, 6 or 7 years maybe or whatever. And, but they would require you to be so professional, man. And I appreciated them for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So, so being a full-time musician, as we know, it has ups, it has downs. It can be very difficult. Sometimes the church is not giving you like all that you need in order to live like a day-to-day life as far as making a living. So when I know that you teach guitar lessons now, and it's been taken off. When did you decide that, you know what, I have the ability to teach, and this is something that can be beneficial to me as well, so I should start doing this? When did you start getting into teaching the lessons?
That's a good question. So, you know, like, I think like when I met you back in 2012, I started doing lessons, but it was just like, because, you know, some people will walk up to me and be like, hey, do it. So I actually didn't have a passion for it.
Okay.
So I was doing it here and there, and I was teaching and all that good stuff, but it wasn't until the pandemic until I really was like, oh, you know what, I can really do this again. And I developed a new type of passion for it, because I think like seeing people, because like there's so many different types of musicians and so many different types of people, Like I had people approaching me. They was like, man, I just want to play for my family at home.
Oh,
So if you could just teach me a few chords,
mm-hmm.
and that meant everything to me to hear that. I was like, man, you know what? Because joy comes from different levels of music, you know. And so some people was like, man, they were like, man, we don't want to play for no artists. We don't want to do that big. I just want to play for my family or play at the family cookouts and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can help you do that. No. Yeah. So that's how I got into it heavily. And it ended up being a blessing because it was like, God was like, hey, look, this is actually what I got for you. You could just help people and genuinely help people and genuinely be there, then I'll enlarge some things for you. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know, because I teach lessons as well, sometimes with teaching lessons, what happens, from my experience, is people will see you on the level that you are, and then they'll want to take lessons because of that, but they don't understand that you got to start from square one. And then a lot of times they get frustrated and quit because they're just not moving fast enough. Like,
yes.
What do you think about that? Like, how do you deal with that type of thing?
So you know what I do a lot, Andrew? Sometimes, so I do like a consultation before I give them lessons. And I talk to them, and I always ask questions. And I ask this one question, and I say, what's your frustration level? Like,
oh, wow. Okay.
And when they answer, and it make them think, because they be like, they be like, man, I do get frustrated here. And I'm like, you got to be honest. And because sometimes I think like what music is for a certain type of people, you know, it's either you can do it, it's either you're going to do it or you're not, type of thing, you know. And I think that what I do a lot of times, because, you know, like I've had people be like, man, I don't want to do it or whatever, but I always try to go the extra mile and push them to be like, hey, look, you know, if you can just kind of get past this level or whatever, if you can kind of get past this frustration, like you'll be able to start accomplishing your goal. Because I never fully give up. Even like I had students who would quit, and I'll give them a month or two just to be like, let me give them a month. And then I'll reach back out. I'm like, hey, you know you wanted to get back into this. And they'd be like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And they'll sign back up. And their approach is different. And I'm just like, man, so it's like you really got to talk to them and let them know, like, there's no magic pill that you can take that's going to get you to be like here right away.
Exactly.
So you got to go through the ups and downs. So you really got to break it down. I think like with teachers, we got to be more transparent and honest with people, especially when they don't have the trained ear. They got an untrained ear and all this stuff, and they don't know what's going to happen to their fingers and their body's going to change, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like you got to be more transparent with them and really kind of talk to them on that frustration level. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times the students, they'll start missing lessons and stuff like that, and things will trail off, and then you don't hear back from them. So that's a really great tool to like reach back out and encourage them, because once they understand that their teacher believes in them and wants them to be successful, I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
I'm definitely happy to hear that it's been taken off for you, because like I said, I'm not a full-time musician, but I know plenty of them, and I know that it could be very inconsistent with making a living and everything like that. So to be able to do that besides playing for a church or everything like that, that's definitely great.
Mm-hmm.
Now with guitar, from my perspective, I feel like a good keyboard player is a dime a dozen. A good drummer is so many of them. Bass players, there's a good amount, but a really good guitar player, I feel like, is not that many. Why do you think that is?
Man, I don't know. That's a good question, because that is the talk. I don't care what city you in. Mm-hmm. That's the talk of every city, is like, man, we need a good guitar player. And I'm starting to think that maybe because like people kind of, I think maybe they approach the guitar in a sense where they think that it's like, the strings is kind of like a different thing for them. And it's just like, man, this string thing is kind of shaky, because I think that people will look at a piano and be like, oh, I could just come here and walk up and I can kind of do it this way. Mm-hmm. So they might gravitate to it. But like guitar, it's kind of like, to me, it's such an important instrument to me. You hear the different types of music out here that has guitar. And I think that with a lot of guitar players, I think sometimes like guitar players a lot of guitar players kind of struggle from the back and forth on what they're going to be, whether they're going to be rhythm or they can shred or whatever that case may be. And so I always think like, man, look, if you can have a full package of all of it, like you'll work forever as a guitar player. like forever. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I never understand. I don't have a full answer. I be trying to get an answer to be like, why is it like this when it comes to guitar players? Like, why is it like not consistent good guitar players and more of them? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of weird because it's like almost every other instrument. It's like if I lose a great keyboard player today, I can find one like that. Same thing with drummers, for the most part, bass, but like guitar, like for me, like when we're going out, like I got like maybe two that I can call, two or three. And if they're not available, we just can't have a guitar.
You just rock without it, right?
Yeah. So it's definitely everywhere that you are. But like I feel like for you guys, like those of you that are like really good at what you do, playing guitar, that kind of works in your favor because you can pretty much always work.
Man, yeah, it's weird. That's a funny thing to say. Yeah, that is the case in a sense because it was like it's not saturated with guitar players in the industry. Period.
Yeah,
and it allows you to work a lot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you choose to do with it, you know what I'm saying? And but like you said, there's a lot of keyboard players, but I would kind of think like every instrument kind of suffers on like the professionalism level, finding that, sure. You know what I'm saying, in a sense. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
But you play keys as well, right?
Yeah. Yep.
When did you like transition over to playing keys?
Man, so you know what? I was playing keys growing up too. Like my grandmother was showing me a whole lot of stuff because she played piano very freaking well. Oh. But of course, guitar was my instrument. And then I started playing trumpet heavily. Like people don't know that I play trumpet. Oh, like, yeah. So people don't know. Nobody knows that I really play trumpet except a select few. Yeah. And what happened was I was playing at a church, and the pastor, I guess he kept firing the ministers of music. Everybody he hired kept firing. So one day he got tired. He was like, "Beau, you gonna play organ?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. And so, man, this dude forced me on the organ, and it was the craziest transition. But it was kind of like I got on, and it was like I'm not sure if he really wanted me to play once he saw that I couldn't play, but because he kept, pushing me or whatever, I just wanted to show him that I could get it. So it made me learn, which was the greatest thing that ever happened. Because it was like, once I learned how to play and I understood it, and I started playing in all my keys, man, the workload just grew for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, because like to me, guitar and piano, I've tried guitar here and there, like trying to pick out chords and stuff. It's a totally different instrument. So I feel like, in my opinion, I think the piano might be the easiest to start playing, but the like to be skilled at it takes a whole lot of work. So that's a totally different thing. So that's amazing, man.
Yeah, so man.
You've been moving into the mental health space recently, and therapy and everything like that. Can you talk about like musicians' mental health, because that's an issue that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough until something unfortunate happens, and we start talking about it, and then it kind of trails off. Can you talk about that, like how your passion for that?
Yeah, so like to what you just said, it's almost like nobody says anything about it until it actually happens or something like that. But what's funny is through music history in general, there's so many different signs of mental health issues through musicians, famous musicians, maybe local musicians or whatever the case may be. So what ended up happening for me was when I started into the space of doing lessons, a lot of my clients were coming to me day to day. Sometimes they were down or they were having issues. And I'm like, man, what's going on? And we would end up talking instead of actually doing the lesson sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And they would start breaking down things and normal musician issues, whether it would be some fear that they have, because a lot of musicians have a lot of different fear, because a lot of musicians, or especially like newer musicians or beginners and stuff like that, they're actually scared to kind of step into the space because they're worried about like what the world is going to think about them or whatever. And so like I grew this passion for it over the past few months, and I was like, man, I'm going to step into this. And I started doing my research more and more on it. And there's this stat out that's 71% of musicians suffer from some anxiety or depression or some mental health issues. And I just thought that's a stagnant, that is a huge number. Seeing it be, because like we don't make up that much of the population of the world to begin with. And then to say, oh, well, 71% of us suffered through this. Because I know, like me personally, man, I've had my times. I was like, man, I don't even think I'm going to make it or something like that. So I know that it's some of friends. I know you got friends that are musicians that be like, man, you know, whether it be money issues or gigs or just life in general, no matter what, and it affects your gift or whatever. So I was like, let me step into this space and try to help musicians out as much as possible and try to talk it through. Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, that's really a staggering statistic. 71% of musicians, but at the same time, it makes sense because being a musician is such a different thing from everything else. Because like in order to be consistently working, you got to be like close to if not the cream of the crop, and you're always putting in so much work to get to that level. And then, like, you know, you may not get the opportunities that you're looking for. So that kind of mental up and down could really be taxing on musicians. It's definitely needed to have people that can give therapy. And, you know, like you're talking not from the outside looking in as a therapist that does, you know, something totally different. You're talking as someone who's experienced it and knows what it's like. So that's amazing.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, like also, I think that sometimes like when it comes to that space or it comes to musicians, that I think that sometimes also like musicians pour out so much, like whether it be church or gigs or they traveling, they're doing tours, whatever level it is, that like a lot of musicians, we pour out so much to entertain, to uplift and to serve, that we don't get poured back into it. We don't take that time to focus on our mental health or to pour back into ourselves. Or, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, you have that issue going on as well in the music, because like I see it all the time. It's just like, yo, musicians, man, they'll travel and travel. I think people look at it and be like, oh man, this is great. But man, deep down inside, man, when a musician might get by himself sometimes, you know, you just don't know what's going through their head or what struggles they got going on. So yeah,
for sure. What would you say would be like a tool that musicians, or like something musicians can do when they get to that low place and they're just like going through it, thinking about giving up? What would be your advice like for them in those moments?
I think like one of the biggest things that I always try to tell musicians is take that negativity or take that bad energy or take that space that you may be in and try to, at that point, try to channel it into something positive. So take it and try to, like, you know, surround yourself around loved ones, or work on your business, work on your craft a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Try to be positive with it. But then also, I think sometimes, like, because we get into that space, that sometimes we feel like we cannot deal with that space at that moment. So like, yo, if you feel in a certain way, it's like, okay, it's okay in that moment, and deal with it in that moment. And don't lie to yourself and be like, oh, well, no, I'm good. And then you really not good, you know? So I'm like, man, deal with that stuff. Realize where you are. Don't be afraid to get a therapist. You know what I'm saying? I know, I don't know what it is. And just in our community in general, I just think, like, man, get you a good therapist if you can. You know what I'm saying? If you could definitely afford, and get that, because like we need it. Like we need a good therapist. We need somebody to talk to outside of, I think, the space of maybe a family member or another musician or another person that's in that space, but somebody that you may not know that's in a professional space, a professional therapist that can really kind of really guide you or whatever. So I just think that there's certain steps that we can take, and it just depends on the level of where the musician is. Because I think that sometimes a lot of musicians deal with fear. Like fear is a big thing for musicians, you know? And I always feel like, and I tell musicians all the time, so depending on what their walk is or whatever the case may be, I'm like, look, with fear, if God is saying that I have not given you the spirit of fear, and just that part alone, man, that's great foundation to stand on, because what he's telling you is that this fear that you got, I ain't giving it to you. So it's coming from somewhere else. So as long as you know that, hey, look, that ain't coming from him, that's coming from somewhere else, that's the start. You know what I'm saying? You can deal with it and be like, oh, I can build from there.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Like definitely having the biblical foundation with it as well. Just reminding yourself that God didn't give this to you. So it's
Yeah.
obviously an attack that's trying to come against you to hinder you from doing what God has set before you to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's definitely great advice. So now you're living in Atlanta. How long have you been in Atlanta?
Man, I've been in Atlanta for about 5-6 months now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How is it? How's the transition?
It was interesting, interesting to say the least, but it's been good because Atlanta, like, man, DMV is home, and I'm home a lot. Like, I'm home in the DMV for sure a lot, but Atlanta has been good to me. The people that I've been meeting have been great. They've opened up, they've embraced my business and my work, and it's just been growing, and it's been dope. And it's just like, it's definitely was out of my comfort zone, which I absolutely needed.
Mhm.
And man, I ain't gonna lie, man, I'm having a good time, man. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying helping people in this city. You know what I'm saying? It's a city I don't really know, so I'm learning on the spot every day. But I'm just in a mindset of, man, let me just help. I don't care where you're from, where I'm at. I'm just gonna always be like, I'm trying to help. So it's been good, dude.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, so you're still fresh. I know Atlanta has a whole lot of transplants, so at least you're not alone in that regard. So that's
Man, it's a ton of people from DC and Atlanta, man.
I'm sure.
I be feeling like I'm at home sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Even like I'm in Connecticut now. There's plenty of people I know since I've been here that live down there now. So
I did not know you was in Connecticut.
yeah, man. Yeah, that's where we're at. Yeah.
Okay, dope. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So you released in 2019 a Christmas single, "Oh Come All Ye Faithful." And then in 2021, you released two other songs, "Tuned Up" and "Total Praise." Can you talk about like your motivation behind releasing your own music?
Yeah. So you know what? So I feel like I record so much music for so many different people and so many artists. And I had never thought about doing my own stuff until like people were like, yo, hey, we want to hear something from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, I don't even know where to begin. And the Christmas single, I played every instrument on there.
Oh,
except
wow.
Yeah, except for drums or whatever. I had Dominique Austin play drums on it.
Oh,
and but yeah, and it was just on a whim. Like I wasn't trying to do anything with it, but then it came out really well. And then Total Praise, huh?
No, I was saying it sounds great.
Oh man, thank you, man. Yeah, thank you. And and it was a lot of fun to do, and it was different for me. And then when I put it out, man, so many people grabbed it, and so many people like, oh man. And then I got into the space of with the Total Praise. The Total Praise has always been with me since I had the surgery that I had back in 2008. And that song was like major. And so it's always been with me. So like churches or people in general always want to hear me play that. Yeah, so Total Praise came. It was really foundationally based from the surgery that I had. And so I got into it. I had a great producer named Zane Gibson. He's out in Houston.
Okay.
A great friend of mine, a great brother of mine. And I told him, I was like, look, man, I kind of want to do it. And so he took it, he threw some changes on it. And he was just like, look, man, you really do need to record this. And we got into it. And so that's where the Total Praise came from. And it's just been with me for like ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he also produced the Tune Up single, which was totally different for me because I wasn't really in the smooth jazz space, And it was dope because it kind of worked out because I was like, because he actually put it together for me. And I was like, all right. I said, you got a melody? He said, no. He was like, you can handle it. He was like, yeah. He was like, this is all I got. Yeah. And so it took me like 2 weeks or whatever to kind of find something that would be catchy or whatever. And so we put it together, man. And it came out dope. It was really dope.
Yeah. They all sound great, man. That's amazing. I know a lot of musicians have music in them or the ability to create, but they kind of, for fear and a lot of times like mental health, different things they deal with, they don't put it out. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely great that you were able to do that. So you talked about like how Total Praise was with you during the surgery that you had back in 2008. Can you talk about like what you went through and how that changed your life and everything?
Yeah. So 2008, 4th of July or whatever. So another anniversary of that coming up. that week of 4th of July, man, I was having these headaches. They were super severe, and I just thought it was something regular. And it finally got to the point to where I couldn't bear it anymore. And my parents was like, well, look, let's go to the hospital. Because I was with my parents at that time, that particular day. So they rushed me to the hospital. And when I got there, they did some x-rays. And doctors came in, like a ton of doctors came in. And I knew I was in trouble when I saw the doctors come in. I said, uh-oh. And he was like, look, man, you got this tumor on the back of your head. Oh, he was like, it's covering the whole back of your head and it's covering the top of your spine. And he was like, we gotta have an emergency surgery right away, but we gotta medevac you to Georgetown Hospital in order for us to get it out of you. He was like, because man, it's at a point to where it's really, really attacking you. You on the verge of possibly having an aneurysm or whatever. And they was kind of shocked that I made it this far, with it. And so, long story short, I don't even remember it. I blacked out on the helicopter. I don't remember the helicopter ride. Okay. And got to Georgetown, and they got me to the point to it. Got my blood pressure settled so they could get ready to operate. And man, I'll never forget this doctor. Her name was Dr. Douglas, and she was great. And she walked in with this book, man. This book was like this big. She started reading all the possible stuff that could happen and what I could go through. And it was like, you could either be blind, you could be handicapped. They was like, you never gonna play music again. Wow. They were either like, you're gonna be paralyzed on either your right hand side or your left hand side. I mean, a list of things, right? And then they were finally like, hey, look, she was like, look, there's a possibility that we probably really can't wake you up from this. Oh, man. And that was major. And I was like, man, so not to be sad about it, because I'm sitting right here in front of you, you know what I'm saying? Yes, and so, yep. Man, God, and it was funny, man. I'm doing everything that she said I wouldn't do times 10, and so I'm so grateful for it, because that was a major, the recovery process from it was like, it took me like 2 years to kind of get back to where I needed to be. Right. But I'm fine with it though, because I'm completely healthy and I'm good. I'm in my right mind. But it was a major situation, man. It was crazy.
Wow, I've seen you talk about it, but I hadn't heard like all the details of it before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're literally a miracle, like walking, because everything they said that you wouldn't do, God gave you the ability to go even beyond that. That's incredible, man.
Dude, because you know what, man, I guess people be needing excuses to be grateful. And I'm like, man, listen, man, I don't need God don't gotta do nothing for me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna rock with him forever till it's done. And I get that it can be unpopular out there to just be with God. But I'm like, man, I don't care how unpopular it is. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what it look like. I'm going to stick with him and be faithful as possible, because I know if it was left up to me to try to fix that situation, I would probably be dead. You know what I'm saying? But because of him and being there, and every day I wake up, I feel like there's something that he sees in me that he wants me to do. And so that gives me what I need to keep going and keep pushing and to do it. And so I'm consistently grateful that he pulled me out of that.
Man, that's amazing. God is good, man. Just hearing that testimony is encouraging to me. So I know people listening, that encourages you that there's nothing that God can't do, because it could have been a totally different way. But like you said, because you're still alive, God has more for you to do. So that's incredible, man. Another anniversary coming up. You're still living, expanding, growing, doing great things, man. Bro, thank you so much for doing this interview. This was very informative. It was enjoyable, and I truly appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, man. Look, thank you, man. And look, shout out to you, man. You're doing a great thing. I love what you're doing, man. I love the space that you're in. Man, and your family, man, your brothers and your sisters, man. Tell them all I said, hey, man.
Yes, sir.
And people, hey, listen, the McCains, man, they ain't nothing to play with, man.
Oh, thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
We always loved y'all, man. Always loved y'all music all the time, man.
Thank you so much, bro. And let everybody know where they can follow you on Instagram, Facebook, anything like that.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on my music page, which is Beau Talley _ music page. So you can follow me on Facebook at Beau Talley. And look, I'm on TikTok. Figure that out. You know what I'm saying? At Tally Mark Music on TikTok. I'm still trying to figure TikTok out or whatever.
Yeah. All right, that's what's up, man. All right, man. This has been another episode of the Interlude with Drew. As I always say, only what you do for Christ will last. Take it one day at a time and keep it pushing. Until next time, I'll holler at you guys.
Yeah.
It's the Interlude with Drew.
Welcome to the Interlude with Drew.